A while back, I wrote for Public Square magazine about a pair of gay Latter-day Saints who also have a podcast, have written books, and travel the country giving firesides and lectures. While I mention them by name in the article, I've elected to keep them anonymous in this book. As such, some details of the experience have been changed. My critique of them was firm about the doctrinal deviations and flawed ideas I believe they promote in their messaging, but I focused on their words and not them as individuals. I stuck to specific quotes and comments in my critiques and avoided any conclusions about their character or intentions, aside from stating that I believe their motivations are nothing but pure. We're commanded to judge morality, not people, and I did my best to follow that line in my article. The day I published my critique, I attempted to extend an olive branch by sending them a link to it, along with an explanation of why I wrote it and some genuine well wishes. In hindsight, I wish I would have reached out before the release date, but I was new to the publishing world and didn't realize that was more common than not. I got a response from their general email as well as one of the hosts. His message was kind but regretful, and understandably so. No matter how graceful the writer was, I would share those feelings of frustration if a critical article was written about me. In fact, I do feel that way whenever I receive a critical response that is more thoughtful than your typical internet troll vomit. My heart still skips a beat when I open a social media app and see that one of our posts from the podcast has received more attention than usual, because that typically means a crowd of opposers have found it. The piece received a relatively small amount of traction, and that was the end of it. About 6 months later, I had the impression to reach back out to this individual to suggest some sort of collaboration. I wanted to facilitate a discussion about how we can learn to disagree civilly on emotional issues. I'm still mulling over whether this was an inspired impression or just a fleeting thought I acted on. Regardless, the host quickly responded with a similar sentiment as before, expressing pain from my writings but extending his own olive branch, meeting up for dinner and to discuss the piece. After some back and forth, we agreed to meet the next evening at a restaurant in Provo, Utah, to get to know each other better and discuss the critiques. The encroachment of this meeting completely consumed my mind for the next 24 hours. I was on medication for anxiety at the time, but those meds had nothing on the intent pit in my chest from the moment I received the first response until days after the meeting occurred. I tell you this not to elicit sympathy, but to offer some important context for what followed. We met up at a local Thai restaurant, shook hands, offered pleasantries, and got a table. The conversation was cordial as he asked a lot of questions about me, and I answered them honestly while trying to get some of my own in. I felt the spirit of his genuine nature and enjoyed talking with him. He was kind and acted genuinely curious about my life. In the middle of the explanation about my life, I quickly mentioned Twittergate and how hard that experience was for both Amanda and me. While explaining it, Sam, as we'll call him, made a fleeting comment that caught my attention. It was something like, quote, "Yeah, it's hard when strangers have an opinion about your life." It was said in such a way that I almost missed the implicit message that was clearly directed toward me writing what I did. The sarcastic tone in the comment was so subtle that I ended up realizing it too late to comfortably address it. So I ended up breezing by it like nothing unusual had happened. Soon, though, the conversation turned sour. The topic naturally transitioned to my writings. His main contention was that he didn't feel heard and didn't like a quote I used that implied he and his host were being deceived by the devil. The quote in question was by President Dallin H. Oaks and referenced receiving personal, quote, revelation that goes contrary to gospel principles. Quote, "Such persons may be receiving revelation or inspiration, but it is not from the source they suppose."